The bustling chatter of the cafe softened as a young black woman, radiant in her confidence, walked through the door. Her name was Alana. She wasn't someone who sought attention, but her poise and elegance made heads turn wherever she went. Today, she was celebrating a special moment, a long-awaited promotion at work that symbolized years of perseverance and hard work. Dressed in a simple yet striking navy dress, she carried an aura of triumph that couldn't be ignored. Alana made her way to her reserved table, a smile warm as she greeted the staff. Her husband Marcus had chosen this cafe for the occasion, a quaint spot known for its cozy ambience and decadent desserts. Marcus wasn't there yet, but Alana had no problem waiting. She loved observing the world around her, soaking in the little details that made every moment unique. The cafe was a lively mix of patrons, a group of friends laughing over coffee, a couple whispering sweet nothings, and a waitress sipping between tables with a forced smile. The waitress, Karen, seemed unusually tense. Her eyes flickered with disdain whenever she looked at Alana, though Alana hadn't noticed yet. Karen's day had been tough, double shifts, demanding customers, and now, the sight of someone who exuded effortless grace and happiness. It irked her in ways she couldn't explain, or perhaps didn't care to. As Alana sat waiting, she ordered a slice of the cafe's signature chocolate cake, a little indulgence to mark the occasion. Karen approached her table, her movements sharp and deliberate, her tone clipped. "What can I get for you?" she asked, her words carrying an edge that made Alana pause for a moment. "A slice of your chocolate cake, please," Alana replied politely, her smile unwavering. She had faced her fair share of coldness in life, but she never let it shake her. Karen walked away, muttering under her breath. Moments later, she returned with the cake, setting it down with an abruptness that caused the plate to clatter slightly. "Enjoy," she said flatly before walking off without another word. Alana glanced at the plate, noticing the sloppy presentation but choosing to let it slide. After all, nothing could dim her joy today. But as the minutes passed, Karen's behavior became increasingly erratic. She shot Alana icy glares from across the room, her movements becoming more agitated. Some patrons began to notice, whispering among themselves. Alana, however, kept her focus on her celebration, determined not to let negativity creep into her day. Just as she took her first bite of cake, the cafe door swung open, and Marcus walked in. Tall and composed, his presence commanded attention. He wore a tailored suit that hinted at his influential position, but his warm smile revealed his down-to-earth nature. Spotting Alana, he made his way over, planting a gentle kiss on her cheek. "Happy promotion day, my love," he said, his voice rich with pride. Alana beamed, her happiness doubling with his arrival. Karen, however, froze at the sight of Marcus. Her face paled, her hands trembling slightly as she clutched a tray. It wasn't just the usual reaction to an imposing figure, it was recognition. Her mind raced, connecting dots she hadn't considered before. As Marcus and Alana exchanged affectionate words, Karen's demeanor shifted entirely. She approached their table, her steps hesitant, and without warning, she did the unthinkable. With a look of misplaced triumph, she picked up the untouched slice of cake and hurled it directly at Alana. Gasps erupted across the cafe as the cake landed, smearing chocolate and cream on Alana's dress. The room fell silent, the tension thick as everyone processed what had just happened. Alana sat frozen, the shock rendering her speechless. Marcus, however, rose slowly from his seat, his eyes locking onto Karen with a calmness that was far more unsettling than anger. Karen smirked, her earlier tension replaced with a misguided sense of victory. "People like her don't deserve to sit here acting all high and mighty," she said, her voice dripping with spite. Marcus took a step forward, his voice steady and measured. "Do you know who you've just insulted?" he asked, his gaze piercing. Karen faltered slightly, but her arrogance didn't waver entirely. "Yeah, I know exactly who she is," Karen sapped. "And people like her think they can just walk in here and—" "Enough," Marcus interrupted, his tone carrying a weight that silenced the room. He turned to Alana, who was still stunned, gently brushing a napkin across her dress. Then he looked back at Karen, his eyes narrowing. You have no idea what you've just done. The room held its breath as Marcus reached into his pocket, pulling out a business card. He placed it on the table, the gold embossed lettering catching the light. Karen leaned in to read it, her face draining of color as realization struck. Her smirk disappeared, replaced by a look of pure panic. Marcus's voice dropped to a near whisper, but the authority in it was unmistakable. You've just insulted not only my wife, but the woman who has the power to change lives, including yours. You'll find out soon enough just how much that power extends. The cafe remained silent, every eye fixed on the unfolding drama. Karen's arrogance crumbled, replaced by a growing sense of dread. Alana, still recovering from the shock, glanced at Marcus, her trust in him unshaken. Whatever came next, she knew Marcus would handle it. But what exactly was Karen about to discover? And what was the true power Marcus spoke of? The answers were about to unravel, and the cafe's quiet chaos was only the beginning. Karen's hands trembled as she stared at the business card resting on the table. The once smug expression on her face dissolved into confusion and fear. The bold gold lettering seemed to mock her ignorance. Asterisk Marcus Bennett, CEO of Bennett Enterprises. Asterisk, the name didn't just carry weight. It commanded entire industries. Karen's breath hitched. She had heard of Bennett Enterprises, of course. Who hadn't? They were involved in everything from real estate to technology, holding powerful influence over countless businesses, possibly even this very cafe. The air in the room grew heavier. Conversations that had filled the space moments before had vanished, leaving only the tense hum of anticipation. The other patrons watched, some with concern, others with curiosity. No one moved. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. His quiet, steady tone carried more authority than any shout could. He leaned slightly forward, eyes fixed on Karen. Tell me, Karen, how long have you been working here? Karen's lips parted, but no words came out. She swallowed hard, barely managing to choke out 2 years. Marcus nodded slowly, as if processing that. 2 years, he repeated softly, his gaze unwavering. And this is how you treat customers. This is how you represent your employer. Karen's mind scrambled for defense. It was just a joke. I didn't mean anything by it. People like her. Stop, Marcus said, cutting her off with a single word that felt like a command. His eyes darkened, but his voice remained composed. Don't finish that sentence. Not here. Not now. Alana sat still, silent but observant. She wasn't surprised by Marcus's control over the situation. She had seen it before, in boardrooms, in meetings, in negotiations. But here, in such a personal moment, his quiet strength was both comforting and unsettling. She wiped the cake from her dress with the napkin Marcus had given her, her mind racing with a mix of embarrassment and disbelief. But more than that, she was wondering why Karen had acted this way. It felt personal, but why? Alana didn't know her. What could have driven someone to humiliate a complete stranger so boldly? The cafe manager, a middle-aged man named Greg, finally broke through the thick silence, rushing over with a panicked look. What is going on here? He demanded, eyes darting between Karen and Marcus. He caught sight of the mess on Alana's dress and the shattered expressions around him. Before Karen could speak, Marcus calmly turned to Greg. This woman, he said, gesturing to Karen, thought it was appropriate to throw cake at my wife, in front of your entire establishment. Greg's face turned red. Karen, is this true? Karen stammered, her voice thin. I didn't mean. But Greg wasn't listening. His eyes flicked to Marcus's business card still on the table. His breath caught in his throat. Mr. Bennett, he said cautiously, his voice trembling. Please, I apologize on behalf of the staff. This is completely unacceptable. I can assure you this will be handled immediately. Marcus didn't flinch. Will it? Yes, sir. Absolutely. Karen's mouth fell open. Wait, Greg. It was just a misunderstanding. You can't just. Enough, Karen. Greg snapped, his fear now twisting into anger. Go to the back. Now. Karen hesitated, looking between Greg and Marcus, but the weight of her mistake was undeniable. She turned and hurried toward the back of the cafe, but not before glancing over her shoulder at Marcus and Alana. Her eyes weren't just filled with fear, they burned with something else. Resentment. A grudge that hadn't been extinguished, only buried. Greg turned back to Marcus, wringing his hands. Please, let us clean this up. We'll take care of everything. Your meal is on the house. Marcus's face softened only slightly as he looked at Alana. She gave him a small, reassuring nod, signaling she didn't want this to escalate further. Marcus sighed and met Greg's eyes. We're leaving, but this isn't the last you'll hear from me. With that, he gently helped Alana to her feet, brushing crumbs from her dress. The room remained silent as they walked out, all eyes following them. The door swung closed behind them, and the quiet chatter of the cafe slowly returned, though the tension still lingered in the air. Outside, the cool breeze kissed Alana's skin, grounding her. Marcus placed a hand on her back, guiding her toward the car. Neither of them spoke at first. The weight of what had just happened hung between them, heavy and uncomfortable. Finally, Alana broke the silence. Marcus, what are you going to do? He exhaled slowly, unlocking the car. Nothing yet. She looked at him, searching his face. That's not like you. He paused, hand on the door. You think I should make a scene? Go back in there and ruin that girl's life? Alana hesitated. No, but I know you. You don't let things like this slide. Marcus studied her for a moment, then opened the car door. There are better ways to teach a lesson. As they drove away, Marcus's mind wasn't on the road. It was replaying every detail. Karen's attitude, the smugness in her eyes before she threw the cake, and most importantly, the flash of recognition when she saw him. That wasn't random. There was more to this. And Karen knew something she wasn't saying. Later that night, the incident still weighed heavily on Alana. She sat in their quiet living room, wrapped in a soft blanket, staring at the flickering light of the fireplace. Marcus had retreated to his home office, making calls, speaking in low tones she couldn't quite make out. Her phone buzzed beside her. A text from an unknown number. Asterisk, asterisk, you think you're better than everyone. Watch your back. Asterisk, asterisk. Alana's stomach dropped. Her hands tightened around the phone. She stared at the message, rereading it, her mind spiraling. Was it Karen? It had to be. But how did she get her number? A second message followed. Asterisk, asterisk, your husband can't protect you from everything. Asterisk, asterisk. Alana's breath quickened. She glanced toward the hallway where Marcus was still talking in his office. For the first time that day, a chill crawled up her spine. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. Alana's hands trembled slightly as she stared at the two threatening messages. Her mind raced with possibilities, each more unsettling than the last. She considered showing them to Marcus immediately, but something held her back. Maybe it was the way he had been pacing in his office, his voice tense and focused. He was already carrying so much, and she didn't want to add more to it. But deep down, she knew Marcus needed to see this. Before she could decide, her phone buzzed again. This time, it was a photo. Alana's breath caught in her throat. It was a blurry picture of her sitting in the cafe earlier that day, before the incident. She was alone, smiling at something on her phone, completely unaware of whoever had taken the photo. Her heart pounded in her chest. This wasn't just an angry waitress lashing out anymore. This was personal, calculated. For a moment, Alana sat frozen, staring at the screen, feeling completely exposed. Someone had been watching her long before the cake incident. She quickly locked her phone and stood up, heading straight to Marcus's office. Marcus was at his desk, his laptop open and several files scattered across it. His phone was pressed to his ear. He glanced up when he saw her, but held up a finger to signal he was finishing a call. Yes, look into the ownership records. I want every name connected to that cafe, even the silent partners. Good. Call me back in an hour. He ended the call, leaning back in his chair, rubbing his temple. Alana, what's wrong? Without a word, she placed her phone on his desk, the threatening messages still open. Marcus's eyes narrowed as he read them. His jaw clenched, and the air in the room seemed to shift. Who sent this? He asked, his voice dangerously calm. I don't know. The number isn't saved. And then this? She swiped to the photo. Marcus stared at the image, his expression darkening. He picked up the phone and stared at the number, his mind calculating. This isn't random, he muttered. They were watching you before today. You think it's Karen? Alana's voice was quieter than she intended. Maybe, Marcus replied slowly, but I'm starting to think she's not acting alone. Alana frowned. What do you mean? Marcus leaned forward, his elbows on the desk. There was something off about how she reacted when she saw me. That wasn't just some waitress angry over nothing. She recognized me, or at least my name. He grabbed his laptop and started typing furiously. Bennett Enterprises is too big for a waitress at a small cafe to care about. Unless... His voice trailed off. Alana sat down, watching him closely. Unless what? Marcus didn't answer immediately. He clicked through files, scanned reports, then pulled up a news article. He turned the screen to face her. It was an article from a few years ago about a small tech startup that Bennett Enterprises had acquired. The headline read, Asterisk Bennett Enterprises expansion forces local startup to close doors. Asterisk. Alana skimmed through it, confused. What does this have to do with Karen? Marcus pointed to a name buried in the article. Asterisk Derek Williams, co-founder Asterisk. That's Karen's brother. Alana's eyes widened. How do you know that? Because I remember the negotiations. Derek Williams was stubborn. He didn't want to sell, but his partner went behind his back. After the acquisition, Derek disappeared from the industry. I didn't think much of it at the time, but now. You think Karen blames you for ruining her brother's life? Marcus leaned back. It fits. She must think we destroyed her family's future. And now she's trying to get back at us. Alana shivered. But this feels like more than just revenge. The messages, the photo, this is obsessive. Marcus's phone buzzed, interrupting them. He answered quickly. Talk to me. The voice on the other end was brisk. We found something. Karen Williams' brother, Derek, didn't just leave the industry. He's been arrested twice in the past year for harassment and cyberstalking. Restraining orders are the works. But here's the thing, his last known address is less than 2 miles from that cafe. Marcus's grip on the phone tightened. Keep digging. I want to know where he is now. He hung up and turned to Alana. This isn't just Karen. Derek is involved. He's unstable, and now he's close. Alana's pulse quickened. So what do we do? Marcus's face was unreadable. We get ahead of this. The next day, Marcus arranged for private security to watch over their home. Discreet but effective. He didn't want Alana to feel like a prisoner, but he wasn't going to take any chances. Meanwhile, Alana couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. Even mundane trips to the grocery store felt tense. Every stranger's glance felt heavier. Every shadow seemed to linger. And then, late one evening, something new arrived. A package. No return address. Marcus opened it cautiously, using a knife to slice through the tape. Inside was a single item, a framed photograph. It was a picture of Marcus and Alana from years ago, standing in front of Bennett Enterprises during its grand opening. But something was wrong. Their faces had been scratched out, and written in red marker across the glass were the words, Asterisk asterisk you took everything. Now it's your turn. Asterisk asterisk. Marcus stared at the message, a cold fury settling over him. Alana stepped back, her stomach churning. This isn't going to stop, is it? She whispered. Marcus set the frame down carefully, his mind already moving ahead. No, and now it's my move. But even as Marcus began to plan his next steps, neither of them noticed the dark car parked down the street, engine idling. Inside, a man sat quietly, watching the house. His grip on the steering wheel tightened as he whispered to himself. "It's not over. Not yet." Marcus stared at the scratched-out photograph on his desk, the red marker words burning into his mind. Asterisk, you took everything. Now it's your turn. Asterisk, his hands curled into fists at his sides. This wasn't a threat anymore. It was a promise. Alana sat on the couch, hugging her knees to her chest. Every creak in the house, every shadow flickering past the window sent a chill through her. The security Marcus had put in place felt more like thin glass now, fragile and easy to shatter. Marcus finally broke the silence. "This ends tonight." Alana looked up, fear flashing in her eyes. "Marcus, what are you going to do?" He didn't answer right away. He was already pulling up files on his laptop, cross-referencing names, addresses, and security footage. Every piece of information pointed in one direction: Derek Williams. But Derek wasn't acting alone. Karen was still out there, and the coordination of these threats was too calculated for one person. Marcus's phone buzzed. It was a message from one of his security contacts. Asterisk, asterisk, found Derek. Abandoned warehouse on 14th and Monroe. He's not alone. Asterisk, asterisk. Marcus's jaw tightened. That area had been deserted for years, a perfect place for someone to hide. "Alana, I need you to stay here," he said, grabbing his coat. "No, Marcus. You can't just go alone. I'm not going to let them come for us again. I need to stop this before it gets worse." "But what if they're waiting for you?" He paused by the door, looking back at her. His expression softened, but his voice was firm. "They already are." Outside, the night was colder than usual, the wind slicing through the quiet streets. Marcus's car sped through the empty roads, every turn bringing him closer to the warehouse. His mind raced with possibilities. Karen was emotional, but Derek was methodical. This wasn't just a revenge plot. It was something deeper. As he approached the warehouse, Marcus killed the headlights and coasted to a stop a block away. The building loomed ahead, its windows dark and broken. A perfect hiding spot. He scanned the area. No movement. No sound. But Marcus knew better than to trust the quiet. He slipped out of the car, phone in hand. He texted his head of security. Asterisk, asterisk, warehouse. 14th and Monroe. Stand by for my signal. Asterisk, asterisk. If anything went wrong, backup would be minutes away. But Marcus wasn't planning to wait. He approached the side of the building, moving silently. A faint light flickered inside through a crack in the boarded windows. Slowly, he crept closer, peering in. Derek Williams stood in the center of the room, pacing. His face was thinner than Marcus remembered, eyes darker, sharper. He was muttering to himself, gripping a phone in his hand. Across from him, Karen leaned against a crate, arms crossed, her face pale but tense. "You said this would scare them," Karen hissed. "But now he's coming for us." Derek's voice was low but intense. "It's too late to back out. He ruined us, Karen. He took everything. Now he's going to feel what it's like to lose control." Karen shook her head. "This isn't what I wanted. I just wanted her to feel small. Not this." Derek turned on her, eyes wild. "She needs to suffer like we did. And Marcus, he's going to watch it happen." Marcus listened carefully, piecing together their plan. But then he noticed something else. A second phone on the table, wired to a small device. A blinking light. Marcus's blood ran cold. It wasn't just threats. They had set up something far worse. He pulled back, heart pounding. They weren't planning to confront him directly. They were setting a trap. And then it hit him. Alana. His breath caught. Marcus sprinted back to his car, dialing Alana's number. It rang once. Twice. No answer. Come on. Voicemail. He started the car, tires screeching as he sped toward home. Miles away, Alana sat in the quiet house. She stared at her phone, debating whether to call Marcus again, but something felt off. The security guard stationed outside hadn't checked in for a while. A soft asterisk click asterisk echoed from the back door. Alana's heart stopped. Slowly, she stood up, glancing toward the kitchen. The back door creaked open by an inch. "Hello," she called out, her voice barely a whisper. No answer. She backed away, grabbing the nearest object, a heavy lamp. Then a shadow moved. "Alana?" Karen's voice. Low, unsteady. Alana's grip tightened on the lamp. "What are you doing here?" Karen stepped into the dim light, hands raised. "I didn't come to hurt you. I didn't know he would take it this far." "What are you talking about?" "Derek. He's not just after Marcus. He wants to destroy everything. He set something up. Here." Alana's stomach turned. Karen looked terrified. "He said Marcus would suffer watching you go up in flames. He's wired the house." Before Alana could react, the house phone rang. The landline. No one ever called the landline. Alana and Karen both froze. It rang again. Alana slowly reached for it, hands shaking. She answered. No voice, just breathing. Then Derek's cold whisper. Tick-tock. Alana dropped the phone, eyes wide. Marcus's car tore down the street, headlights cutting through the dark. But was he too late? Marcus's car screeched to a halt in front of the house, his mind racing. The front door was slightly ajar, swaying in the cold wind. That wasn't right. He grabbed his phone, dialing Alana again, but it rang endlessly. His pulse pounded in his ears as he sprinted toward the door. "Alana," he shouted, bursting into the darkened living room. Silence. Then a voice from the kitchen. "Marcus, wait." Karen stepped into view, hands raised. Marcus froze, eyes narrowing. "What are you doing here?" "I didn't come to hurt her." Derek's gone too far. He's wired the house. Marcus didn't wait for explanations. He bolted past her, frantically searching for Alana. He found her in the hallway, gripping the wall phone like a lifeline. Her face was pale, her eyes wide with shock. "He was here, Marcus." "Derek was here," she whispered. Marcus pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly for a second before pulling back. "We have to get out. Now." But Karen shook her head. "You don't understand. It's not just the house." Marcus turned slowly toward her. "What are you talking about?" Karen's voice trembled. "Derek's not working alone. There's someone else helping him. Someone with access." Marcus's eyes darkened. "Access to what?" Karen hesitated. "Your company, your security systems." The words hit Marcus like a punch. "That's impossible. Our systems are airtight." Karen shook her head. "Not anymore. Derek's been inside your network for weeks. He knew your every move. He planned this." Marcus's mind reeled. If Derek had breached his company's systems, it wasn't just their home that was vulnerable. Everything, his business, his employees, their safety, was exposed. And then his phone buzzed. A new message. Asterisk asterisk, you think this ends at home. Check the office. Asterisk asterisk. Marcus's stomach dropped. Without another word, he grabbed Alana's hand. "We need to go. Now." "But Marcus." "No time. Karen, if you're telling the truth, come with us. Otherwise, stay here." Karen hesitated, then followed. They sped through the dark streets, the city lights blurring past. Marcus's thoughts were a whirlwind. How had Derek gotten into his company? Who was helping him? As they approached the towering glass building of Bennett Enterprises, Marcus's heart sank. The security lights, usually bright and steady, were flickering. Marcus parked haphazardly and bolted to the entrance. The security guard at the front desk was slumped over, unconscious. "Oh my God," Alana gasped. Marcus knelt, checking the guard's pulse. He was alive, just drugged. "Derek's already been here," Marcus muttered. They raced to the elevator, but the power flickered again. Karen pointed to the stairwell. We have to take the stairs. They climbed the stairs in tense silence, every creak of their footsteps echoing louder than the last. When they reached Marcus's office floor, the door was already ajar. Marcus slowly pushed it open. The office was trashed, papers scattered, monitors shattered. But what caught Marcus's eye was the large monitor still glowing on the wall. A live feed of their house. Marcus stepped closer, realization dawning. The camera angle wasn't from any of his security systems. It was hidden. Alana gasped. He was watching us the whole time. Then the screen flickered. Derek's face filled the display, calm and cold. Hello, Marcus. Marcus's fists clenched. Derek's voice was eerily calm. I told you this wasn't over, but you didn't listen. Marcus scanned the room, looking for a trap. Derek continued, You think I'm alone in this? You think this is just about revenge? Marcus's voice was low. What do you want? Derek smiled faintly. Not what? Who? Marcus's blood ran cold. And then Derek stepped aside in the video feed. Standing behind him was one of Marcus's senior executives, Thomas Gray. Marcus's breath caught. Thomas had been with Bennett Enterprises for years. Trusted. Loyal. Or so he thought. Thomas leaned toward the camera, smirking. Didn't see this coming, did you, Marcus? Marcus's mind raced. Thomas had full access to company systems, security codes, employee information. Derek's voice cut in. While you were chasing shadows, I was burning your empire from the inside. Marcus's jaw tightened. Thomas chuckled. Consider this payback for casting me aside. You made enemies, Marcus. You just didn't notice. Alana's grip tightened on Marcus's arm. Derek raised a small device in his hand, finger hovering over a button. You have one choice, Marcus. Save your company or save your wife. The screen went black. Marcus's heart pounded. Alana stared at him, fear in her eyes. Karen whispered, What do we do now? Marcus didn't move, torn between two impossible choices. And the clock was ticking. Marcus's mind spun, caught between two impossible choices. Derek's words echoed in his head. Asterisk, save your company, or save your wife, asterisk. He glanced at Alana, fear flickering in her eyes, but she didn't speak. She didn't have to. He knew what he had to do. No, Marcus muttered under his breath. I'm not playing their game. He pulled out his phone and dialed his head of security. Locked down the entire building. Remote wipe all systems. Now. But, sir. Now. If Derek and Thomas thought they could hold his company hostage, they'd be mistaken. Marcus would burn it all down before letting them win. He turned to Karen. How did Derek get into the systems? Karen swallowed hard. Thomas gave him full access. He bypassed everything using your emergency protocols. Marcus's jaw tightened. Then we take that away from them. Suddenly, the building's lights flickered and died, plunging them into darkness. A low mechanical hum vibrated through the walls. What was that? Alana whispered. Marcus's phone buzzed again. A new message. Asterisk, asterisk, wrong choice. Tick-tock. Asterisk, asterisk. Karen gasped. They've set explosives in the building. Marcus's stomach dropped. Derek wasn't bluffing anymore. He grabbed Alana's hand. We have to get out now. They bolted for the stairwell, racing down floor after floor. The emergency lights barely lit the way, casting long shadows that seemed to move with them. But as they neared the lobby, Marcus heard something that stopped him cold. Laughter. Slow, mocking laughter echoing through the darkness. Marcus froze, tightening his grip on Alana's hand. Thomas stepped out from the shadows, holding a small detonator. His suit was disheveled, his face twisted in a smug grin. You really thought it was that easy? Thomas sneered. Marcus stared him down. End this now, Thomas. You won't get away with it. Thomas chuckled. Get away with it? Marcus, I already have. You sacrificed your company to save your wife, but now you lose both. He raised the detonator, his thumb hovering over the button. Before he could press it, a gunshot rang out. Thomas stumbled back, clutching his shoulder, the detonator clattering to the ground. Karen stood behind him, gripping a small pistol with shaking hands. Marcus's eyes widened. Karen's voice trembled but was steady. You're not the only one who's tired of being used. Thomas collapsed to the floor, groaning in pain. Marcus lunged forward, kicking the detonator away and pinning Thomas down. Where are the explosives? Marcus growled. Thomas coughed, smirking through the pain. Too late. Marcus grabbed his collar, lifting him slightly. Tell me. Thomas's grin faded. They're in the basement, but Derek has the trigger. Marcus turned to Karen. Stay with him. Don't let him move. Karen nodded, gun still trained on Thomas. Marcus and Alana sprinted toward the basement, the cold air growing heavier with every step. In the dimly lit basement, Derek stood near a massive server rack, wires snaking around small devices strapped to the walls. Explosives. He turned slowly, clapping slowly. Well done, Marcus. You've made it all the way here, but this is where it ends. Marcus didn't hesitate. He lunged at Derek, the two men crashing to the ground. They struggled violently, fists flying. Derek was stronger than Marcus expected, driven by pure rage. You took everything from me, Derek roared, swinging wildly. Marcus grunted, dodging a punch and slamming Derek's hand against the floor, making him drop the remote. But Derek wasn't done. He lunged for a crowbar, swinging it wildly. Marcus barely ducked, grabbing a metal pipe and blocking the next strike. You did this to yourself. Marcus shouted, slamming Derek against the wall. The remote skittered across the floor toward Alana. Without thinking, she dove for it, snatching it up. But the screen blinked. Asterisk, asterisk, FLA, LSFFAENJGD, asterisk, asterisk. Derek laughed through bloodied lips. You think I'd make it that easy? One press, and the whole building goes. Marcus' chest heaved. Then it ends now. Using every ounce of strength, Marcus drove Derek backward, slamming him into the server rack. Sparks flew as wires ripped free, the servers shutting down one by one. The countdown on the explosives blinked, asterisk paused asterisk. Derek slumped to the ground, unconscious. Marcus turned to Alana. It's over. But then the faintest beep echoed in the silence. Marcus's eyes darted to the corner. A second set of explosives, smaller, hidden. The timer blinked. Asterisk 05 asterisk. Run, Marcus roared. They sprinted up the stairs as the ground trembled beneath them. Asterisk BOM asterisk. The explosion shook the basement, but the upper floors held. They burst out into the freezing night air, coughing, hearts pounding. Behind them, smoke billowed from the lower floors, but the building stood. Karen stumbled out moments later, driving a barely conscious Thomas. Sirens wailed in the distance. Marcus turned to Alana, pulling her close. It's over, he whispered. But Karen's eyes darkened. No, it's not. Marcus stared at her. Karen opened her hand, revealing a small black USB drive. I found this on Thomas. Marcus took it slowly. What is it? Karen's voice was low. Proof. Derek and Thomas were working for someone else. Someone bigger. Marcus's grip tightened on the drive. Far off in the shadows, a figure watched them from a parked car. The engine roared to life, disappearing into the night. Marcus's victory was only the beginning.